What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Usually I'm getting into sports first. Usually I'm sitting up there telling you about my book. I'm telling you about my subscribers, never failing to give thanks and proper gratitude to those who have supported me, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for y'all. But at the end of the day, I'm in the news business. And there's some news that's popping off right now that is simply unavoidable. There's no way to slice it, and it has nothing to do with sports. I wanted to clear right here over these digital airwaves of YouTube that the career of Sean P. Diddy Combs, as we know it, it's over. This shit is over. It's over in the worst possible way, one of the worst possible ways you can imagine. These are the latest developments, okay? Exclusive surveillance video obtained by CNN appears to show the music mogul assaulting his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura at a hotel in 2016. In the video, Combs can be seen striking and kicking Ventura as she tried to leave. I have the video right in front of me. We can't show it to you. We can't show it to you. But I'm watching this with the sound off as we speak. She's walking down the hallway in a hoodie, y'all, clearly trying to sneak out of the hotel room. We see him come sprinting down the hallway in just a towel. That's it. He goes up to her. He snatches her by the neck, yanks her to the ground. She lays there still, okay? I'm looking at the video. I'm looking at the video while I'm talking to you. He snatches her by the neck, unless this is some lookalike, unless it's some clone, unless this is somebody that's like from Mission Impossible, like Tom Cruise, wearing somebody else's face, looking exactly like them when it ain't them at all. Unless there's something along those lines. This is what we're looking at here. And you see the stills right there in the screen, and I get that. But I'm telling you right now, I'm watching this as we speak. And I've seen this video now because I want to make sure I know what I'm looking at. This is about the 10th time that I looked at it. He runs down, he snatches her by the neck, he yanks her to the ground, she lays still, then he launches a kick towards her like he's kicking a damn field goal, picks up the vase or whatever she had with her, kicks her again, hits her, she lays still, and then after that, he grabs her and drags her down the hallway. And then there's additional video showing him sitting in the hotel room, picking up stuff, throwing it at her. Ladies and gentlemen, I cover sports. Primarily, that's my day job. Remember Ray Rice? Remember what happened? Like 2014 when his girl was in the elevator and she either shoved him or hit him, and then he check left hooked her and hit her and knocked her face into the bar inside the elevator. She hit her head to it, and then she laid on the floor unconscious in the elevator, straight up knocked out. And then after that, he didn't even pick her up and he dragged her out of the elevator. This video, allegedly, supposedly, presumably, seemingly, whatever word's appropriate, with P. Diddy, Sean P. Diddy Combs. This is worse. We saw both videos. We saw the video from Atlantic City with Ray Rice years ago. We saw that many times over. We saw the collateral impact it had on the NFL, the world of sports, and beyond, because it heightened a level of sensitivity towards domestic violence and showed that level of awareness to such a degree that it permeates our thoughts and our minds, hearts to this day and age. In this day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is worse. I'm looking at the video again. This is worse. No wonder he settled the case with Cassie Ventura one day after she had filed a suit against him. One day. No wonder you've heard about so many different allegations when his homes in Los Angeles and Miami were raided by Homeland Security. This is bad. This is so bad, it's hard to put into words. I don't know how P. Diddy recovers from this. I don't know if he can. The only way is if it's proven that that video, that's not him. That's not him. This is the only way. There's no other way. There's no other way. No wonder we haven't seen him. Only time you caught him was somebody's doing a video with him at a coffee shop. I mean, at one point in time, we were talking about sex trafficking, those allegations, him being compared to Jeffrey Epstein or whatever. But those are allegations, which he's emphatically denied. This is a video. It's not even a picture. It's a video. You see him sprinting down the hallway. Damn sure look like him. This ain't Mission Impossible. It looked like him. It seems to be him. And if it's proven to be him, and this video is authentic, and we have no reason to believe that CNN, of all places, would air an inauthentic video flagrantly, clearly incriminating P. Diddy. We have no reason to believe otherwise. I think his career's over. This ain't the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. Nah. That shit don't fly in this day and age. You can't get away with that. You never should have been able to ever, ever, ever in life. And sure, it shouldn't take a video to speak 10,000 words. But damn it, it does compared to word of mouth or compared to the written word. When you see the video, it's an entirely different connotation that comes with it, a different feeling. I might suspect some shit about you when I hear about it. When I see it, there's no way around this. This ain't funny at all. And yes, that was 2016. Well, you acting like that in 2016. Who's to believe you didn't do it in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023? Why would we believe otherwise? I've had conversations with P. Diddy over the phone. He was an aspiring sports team owner, was interested in purchasing the Charlotte Hornets, being a part of a group that would ultimately buy an NBA team. I'm not faulting anybody, all of these folks with this stupidity, faulting, they're looking for fault at them because they went to a P. Diddy party or whatever. I've gone to a P. Diddy party. I never saw him when I got there. It was so damn crowded. But if somebody tell you that's the place to be and everybody going to the damn party, that don't make you a criminal because you went to the party of somebody who's alleged to be a criminal, especially when they weren't alleged to be that at the time. What about our team? Seen him at Miami Heat games. Hell, I took a picture with him at a Golden State Warriors NBA Finals game. I ain't know this shit. Not this video that I just finished watching 10 times. 50 Cent walking around, trolling, where's Jay-Z? I don't blame anybody for not wanting to be seen with P. Diddy not right now. Whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's 50, whether it's one of his artists. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes you scurry. It makes you run for cover. This ain't words. This ain't sound. This ain't lip service. This ain't articles being written. Nah, this is different. This is worse than Ray Rice. And Ray Rice never played in the National Football League again. Nobody's giving him another chance to play football. His career ended that day that video was released. Now, P. Diddy got money that Ray Rice never had. And with his businesses and what have you, that's fine. But I hope he saved a lot of it. This is bad, y'all. CNN. Breaking news. They got it on video. Breaking news, CNN has obtained footage of Diddy repeatedly beating his then girlfriend Cassie in a hotel hallway. Beat her, kicked her, grabbed her, dragged her, threw stuff at her. You know, recently he was trying to buy BET. Did you know that? Did you? Did you know recently, given the key to the city by Mayor Eric Adams in New York? If I remember correctly, didn't he ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange one time? I'm not faulting any of those people. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know something like this is coming down the pike. You don't know that there's validity to allegations of some of these egregious acts. Now you start thinking about what Suge Knight said in an interview when he was talking about how Diddy better be careful. They gonna get him because he's been successful all of this time. He knows everybody's secrets. And as a result, you're going to want people want to hide their secrets. He better not end up in jail. That's basically what Suge Knight, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he was saying. It's a bad day for hip hop. This is after they invaded P. Diddy's home, March 29th, 2024, according to complex.com. Suge Knight, it's a bad day for hip hop, for the culture. Black people, because if one looks bad, we all look bad. That's definitely not nothing to cheer about. He continued, but I'll tell you what. Puffy, your life is in danger. He says Diddy, who's 54 at the time, knows the secrets. And because of that, they're going to get you if they can. This is from Suge Knight. It's from Suge Knight. This is bad. And I believe in the day and age that we're living in, ain't no coming back from this. You ain't got to worry about nobody coming to his parties. He'd have a tough time with somebody wanting to be seen with him at a Starbucks. Unless it's 60 Minutes or somebody. This is bad. I'm just reporting y'all what I'm saying, and I'm telling you based on what I just saw. Now, this is indefensible. It's indefensible. It's indefensible, period. But especially if you love women. A daughter or daughters, a sister or sisters, a mama, aunts, cousins, colleagues, friends. It don't matter. Inexcusable, indefensible, indefensible. Watch the video. Watch the video. Ain't no way around it. Ain't no way around it. When you saw this video, when you see this video, you know what you're going to wonder? When's he getting arrested? It's 8 years ago. And what he was doing was so bad, it's going to make you say, why his ass ain't arrested? I take no joy in saying this. I'm a fan of P. Diddy's music. I'm a fan of his career. I'm a fan of the great things that he's accomplished. He's always been cool with me when on a rare occasion we cross paths. But I never saw this video. Ain't no coming back from this. Ain't no endorsement deals. Ain't no commercials. I guess in the hip hop industry, anybody got a chance to make another album or whatever, how many people you think gonna buy it? Damn. That's all I have left to say. Damn. Damn. Let me move on to golf for a quick second, because it's about something that happened off the course, not on the golf course. More specifically, the PGA Championship, where world number one golfer Scottie Scheffler was arrested by Louisville police heading into Valhalla Golf Club this morning. It happened, obviously, this morning as traffic was stopped outside the club after a man was struck and killed by a shuttle bus. According to ESPN reporter Jeff Darlington, who witnessed the incident, Scheffler was trying to drive around the crash scene on a median. An officer instructed Scheffler to stop, but Scheffler continued to drive about 10 to 20 yards towards the entrance. Here's sound from the incident. Listen up here.
Guys.
Dude, step back. Back up, or
I'm back. I'm back.
You're game one, right?
Yeah, I took 15.
Guys.
What do we tell you?
I'm staying back.
Here's the thing. Right now, he's going to jail.
Okay.
Okay? He's going to jail, and it ain't nothing you can do about it. Period. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, do you have
First,
a question?
I'm media. I'm a
Okay,
reporter. Okay.
okay.
So that's all.
That's fine.
I just want to make sure that's
Okay,
known.
but you need to step
No
back
problem.
over here now.
No problem. You got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Before I give my opinion, let me just say this. Scheffler was arrested and hit with several charges, which include second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding traffic signals from an officer directing traffic. Here's a statement from Scottie Scheffler himself, the world's number one player, who, by the way, has spent like 87 weeks as the world's number one player over the last 2 years or so. He said, quote, "This morning I was proceeding as directed by police officers. It was a very chaotic situation, understandably so, considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier, and there was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do. I never intended to disregard any of the instructions. I'm hopeful to put this to the side and focus on golf today. Of course, all of us involved in the tournament express our deepest sympathies to the family of the man who passed away in an earlier accident this morning. It truly puts everything into perspective," end quote. Scottie Scheffler deserve to be arrested. Let's get that out the way first. A police officer is dragged on the side of your car 15 to 20 yards. On its face, it seems perfectly plausible that an arrest is warranted, because it shouldn't have taken you 15 to 20 yards to stop while an officer was hanging onto your vehicle. That's on its face. It does come with a little bit of trickiness, however. Number one, it was chaotic out there. Number two, it wasn't just police officers that had on those yellow jerseys that you see on that screen right there. It was also folks who were working to direct traffic, and obviously the PGA Tour is there. Number three, we want to act like everybody gets treated the same. All I ask is that we grow up and understand that's not true. You're the number one golfer in the world. The police are saying, according to Jeff Darlington, who I interviewed this morning, by the way, during my day job on ESPN's First Take, airs every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Jeff Darlington, my colleague at ESPN, was on the show. And he said one of the officers came up to him afterwards, because he was the one playing it on his camera. He said one of the officers came up to him afterwards and asked, "Who is it? Who's the guy I just arrested?" So they didn't know. Presumably, they didn't know that was the world's number one golfer. I tell you what you did know. You did know that the traffic that was out there wasn't just because of the crash or the accident that killed the pedestrian, God rest his soul. But also, you know those folks were out there, was coming to the PGA. There's traffic out there for a reason in Louisville, Kentucky. They were coming to the PGA. And you also know that golfers, because according to my colleagues at ESPN, guys like Michael Eaves and others pointed out to me, each golfer is giving a car They're not given a driver, but each of them are given a car. And on each car states the official PGA Tour. It's got that emblazoned on the back. That is what I was told this morning by my buddy Michael Eves, who does a great job covering golf for us. He said golfers are given free cars for the week, but they are not assigned people to drive them. The officer is saying that Scheffler disobeyed his orders and then dragged him to the ground with his car, causing injuries to the officer and his clothing. Scheffler saying he didn't know the guy was a cop. The cop is evidently saying otherwise. If he knew that was an officer, automatic arrest, automatic felony charge. That's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. If he didn't know, that's a different animal. That means the officer didn't identify himself. I'm simply saying, what the hell are you doing driving a car 20 feet, 15 to 20 yards rather, knowing somebody is clinging to the damn car? Why would you keep driving? So I'm not trying to pretend or act as if Scheffler's innocent. I'm just saying we don't know all the details. What I will say is that the world's #1 golfer doesn't need to get yanked out of a car right at the entrance of the event, slammed up against their car and ultimately cuffed and essentially perp walked. I do know that I would not be surprised if heads rolled with a couple of those police officers because the #1 golfer in the world was treated that way. And obviously that compromised the event. Now, that wasn't the reason the event was stalled for an hour and a half. But ultimately, when something like that happens and a tour event, which attracts folks to its event, which is good for the local economy, if that's compromised, somebody's going to pay a price for that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if something will ever happen to the officers. I don't know if something should happen to them because we don't know all the details. And most importantly, I don't know if something were to end up happening to one of the officers, if not several of them, in any regard that we would know because they're not public figures. So how much intel would we get about that if they were reprimanded in any way? It did seem a bit excessive, I must admit. I don't think that was necessary. But then again, if you piss the officer off because you dragged him 15 to 20 feet, that's how it goes. I don't know what more to say other than that. But it was a shocking day of events, to say the least. I'll leave it at that. Coming up, Donald Trump appears to be gaining support among black voters. I'll get into all of that. That means the black vote, what we're doing with it, what we plan on doing with it, what we should do with it. I'll get into that discussion with the great Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. He'll be up next. Plus, the T-Wolves force a Game 7 against the defending world champs, and the Knicks have a chance to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I got all the playoff action ahead, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Okay, everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for Stephen A.'s Weekly Picks. If you already haven't heard, I've teamed up with the biggest fantasy sports game in all the land. That's Prize Picks, y'all, to bring you my favorite sports predictions. Prize Picks is a skill-based fantasy game where you select 2 or more players and predict if they'll have more or less than their stat projections for the game. It's not only easy to make your picks, but incredibly fast. And you can do it in less time than it takes Caitlin Clark to pull up and hit a game-winning 3. Pick the stats for Luka and even Otani, and then sit back and watch. So go to prizepicks.com and use promo code SAS for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's right. Go to prizepicks.com. Type in my initials SAS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. And if you go to PrizePicks app, you'll be able to see my picks for today. Now let's look at today's winning picks, all right? Pay attention. I got them for you. Alec Burks for the New York Knicks, more or less than 10.5 points. I'm going to go with less. I expect it to be a tight game. I don't know if Tom Thibodeau will even put him in the game long enough to get 10 points. That's what I'm worried about. That's why I went with less for this with Alex Burke. It's just the way to go right now. I just don't trust Tom Thibodeau to have him in for enough chunk of time in order for him to get more than 10.5 points. Let's go to Jalen Brunson, okay? More or less than 45 points, rebounds, assists. This is an easy one, more. Because Jalen Brunson been killing the Indiana Pacers, rather, okay? Been killing them, all right? So, you know, Whether it's points or rebounds alone, he's going to have 4 to 45, or points and assists alone, rather, and then you add in a few rebounds because he's going to get up in there, he's going to bang, going to do what he got to do. Yes, it's going to be more than 45 for Jalen Brunson. How about Pascal Siakam for the Indiana Pacers? More or less than 32.5 points, rebounds, assists. I think he's going to be a key pivotal figure tonight. I think Rick Carlisle's going to go to him, particularly with OG Anunoby out. They're going to look to attack him. He's been struggling from the free throw line a little bit too much, but that don't mean he ain't going to give you more than 32.5 with the combination of points, rebounds, and assists. I think he's going to do that. He's a champion. It's a game 6. Their playoff lives on the line. Pascal Siakam, a champion with the Toronto Raptors years ago when he was teammates with Kawhi Leonard. I think he answers the call. I think you take more in this particular situation. And last but not least, Obi Toppin, former New York Knick, now a member of the Indiana Pacers. More or less than 9.5 points. I'm going to go with more. Obi Toppin can play. By the way, he can shoot. Okay? He can shoot. He can definitely finish at the basket, and he can finish in an open court. I'm not saying it's going to be a whole lot more than 9.5 points, but would I take more for 9.5 points with Obi Toppin instead of less? Yes, I would. I'm going to go with more in this particular situation. So again, let's review my picks so you'll understand what it's all about. Less for Alex Burke at the 10.5 points. More for Jalen Brunson at the 45 points, rebounds, assists. More for Pascal Siakam with the 32.5 points, rebounds, assists. And more of Obi Toppin at just 9.5 points. Those are my picks for tonight. Check them out. Feel free to chime in and say, Stephen A., thank you for looking out for us. We wouldn't have known what to do without you. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airways with YouTube. Let's get to the NBA playoffs, please. And the race out west where Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves beat the living hell out of the Denver Nuggets last night by 45 points. They were up 50, won by 45. Edwards led Minnesota with 27 points and was a plus minus 45 in just 34 minutes on the floor. The T-Wolves have now forced a Game 7 in Denver on Sunday for a chance to go to the Western Conference Finals. Some key injuries of note. Jamal Murray suffered a right elbow injury after bumping into Rudy Gobert. And, of course, Anthony Edwards fell on his back, but says he'll be ready to go on Sunday. I was shocked at what I witnessed. Anthony Edwards is such a stud. I'm going to say this, though. Game 7s are different. It's Anthony Edwards' first Game 7. It's Karl Anthony Towns' first Game 7. Rudy Gobert has only been in 2, and he split 1-1 in each of them. And, oh, by the way, Mike Conley, your veteran point guard that Anthony Edwards loves so much, his career in Game 7s are 0-4. Averaging 13 points and 32% shooting and 23% from three-point range, which is nothing to write home about. They're in Denver for a Game 7. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves defense amps it up like no others. They're the best defense in the NBA this year. And they put the clamps on Denver yesterday, no question about it. And Karl Anthony Towns obviously made some jump shots or whatever, but it was really about Anthony Edwards, and it's about their collective defensive prowess. They were absolutely sensational. They were on the Denver Nuggets like piranhas. And the Denver Nuggets had absolutely positively no answer. The thing for me, though, was this. I saw a whole bunch of missed shots. I saw Jamal Murray open. First half, he shoots 1 for 10. I saw Michael Porter open. He was missing. I saw Kentavious Caldwell-Pope open. He was missing. I saw Aaron Gordon open. He was missing. Is that really what you expect to happen in the Game 7? I don't. I think they make some of those shots rather than miss them with those familiar rims that they play in 41 regular season nights a year. And I think that Denver is going to have his work cut out for it. But let me tell you something. That don't mean they can't win this game. They were down 0-2. And you saw what they did to Minnesota over the next 3 games. And then Minnesota shows up again. And now that they've shown up again and they've evened the series at 3-3, again, they've never been in a Game 7. They've never been in a Game 7. And we're going to find out a couple of things. We're going to find out about Anthony Edwards. We're going to find out about Karl Anthony Towns. We can't say we're going to find out anything about Denver because they're the reigning defending champions. But we're going to find something out because here's what I noticed, y'all. Did you see Nikola Jokic just standing there? He wouldn't sit down for a long time. He was just standing there on the sidelines, staring down at Minnesota as they continue to run up the score and just obliterate the Denver Nuggets. You don't think a 3-time league MVP like that got that kind of pride? You don't think a champion like that got that kind of pride? Did you see what Denver did in coming back 0-2? You don't think they got that kind of pride? Because I'm here to tell you they do. And I think that Nikola Jokic is going to show up, and he's going to show up big time for Game 7. But I think Anthony Edwards is going to show up too. He's just that dude. There was MJ, there was Kobe, and then there's him. And that's a big deal coming from somebody like me because I saw incredible talent throughout the years. Vince Carter's going into the Hall of Fame. He's an incredible talent. The best in-game dunker I've ever seen. And he stuck around for over 20 years with an NBA career. One of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. Once the one knock against Vince Carter, that attitude, that oomph, that go-get-it mentality, that dog in him, he ain't had that because he was such a nice guy. And that's what we saw. Did you see Anthony Edwards at the press conference last night, the podium? And you saw when they asked him, did you say something to the folks in the Denver locker room when y'all lost Game 5? He said, hell yeah, I did. I told those motherfuckers, see you Game 7. That's what I said. I'm quoting him. I'm not cussing, I'm quoting him. I told those motherfuckers, see you Game 7. We'll be back. Hell yeah, and then got up. His attitude is different. And he wants it. And we're going to see whether or not he can deliver it. Make no mistake about it. Because you know Michael Malone got something up his sleeve that he saved for Game 7. He ain't going to show all his cards. But I'm telling you right now, it can't just be the Anthony Edwards show. Now, here's the difference. We talked about supplementary parts showing up and helping out. But in Anthony Edwards' case, he got to show up first. Because you need his greatness to match that of Jokic. So it can even the scales, and then you set the table for somebody else to step in and do what they're supposed to do. That's what we're talking about here with Anthony Edwards. And it's going to be real interesting to see what transpired, because I'm here to tell you right now, Minnesota could lose. Denver could beat the brakes off of them. But Denver has shown us they could do the same. Minnesota has shown us they could do the same to Denver. I can't wait for this Game 7. This is special. Now, I'm hoping the next team I talk about doesn't have to go to a Game 7, and that's my New York Knicks, okay? Because they head into Indianapolis tonight for Game 6 and a chance to close out the series. The last time the Knicks played there was Sunday when they got blown out by 32 on Mother's Day, okay? Mother's Day Massacre is what they call it. Tonight, they have a chance to avenge that loss, and they'll likely have to do it without OG Anunoby, who's still nursing his hamstring injury. I'm going to tell you this. Indiana has no answer for Jalen Brunson. The way he's busting Nembhard's ass and the rest of the Indiana Pacers, he actually should be arrested for assault his damn self. I'm being facetious, of course, but Jalen Brunson has been nothing short of abusing defenders from Indiana. So much so that you got Chris Carlisle, the head coach, cussing out people in press conferences because he ain't really cussing at them. He's cursing at his own team. They looked soft. They looked like they didn't want it. They was fumbling and bumbling the ball all over the place, commit turnovers at every turn. Jalen Brunson, meanwhile, crossover, dribble, step back threes, stutter, stepping back, moving forward, evasive measure. I mean, damn, he was busting their ass. Having said all of that, he can't be the key tonight. It's going to have to be Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. See, you don't want a Game 7. On one hand, and I pose this to a lot of people, listen to my logic here. Initially, I was thinking, don't you want time to prepare for Boston? That's what I was thinking. That doesn't necessarily matter now. But Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo are going to be keys. Dante DiVincenzo's shot is going to be key, his shot-making ability. He needs to hit those threes when he's open for it. So his shot-making ability is one way to go. Here's the other. Josh Hart's heart, his guts, his willingness to go get that damn basketball no matter who's it up against. Josh Hart got to bring out that game in him tonight. Closeout games are always the most difficult. And that's what Josh Hart's going to have to deal with. He can't have 3 rebounds like he did in Game 4 on Mother's Day. He's got to have the 18 rebounds he had in Game 3 when the New York Knicks nearly pulled it out. And it took a miracle from Nembhard from 31 feet to save the day. We can't put ourselves in that situation again. That's what the New York Knicks have to do. Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, they are the keys. They're the keys to the success for the New York Knicks. You get production from them, not to shove aside Hartenstein because you need his offensive rebounds. He had 12 in Game 5. But you need additional weapons if you're the New York Knicks. Stepping up other than Brunson, because I think Indiana will be better prepared for that tonight. Brunson alone won't be enough. Somebody else will have to give you something. So we can get that out the way too now. Before I go to break, I want to bring this up about Kyrie Irving. He plays on the Dallas Mavericks, who are up 3-2 on this series after beating Oklahoma City in Game 5. My man Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not disappointing me. 4 straight games of 30 points or more, in which he's averaging 32 points on 51% shooting, 45% from three-point range, along with 9 rebounds, 6.8 assists, and 2.5 blocks per game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, my vote for league MVP. He doing his job. Where Jalen Williams at? Where Chet Holmgren at? Where's these cats at? Even though Dort is doing, a lot of defensive work on Luka Doncic, even though it didn't work the other night. Let's call it what it is. But here's what got me thinking about I might have made the wrong pick with OKC, and Dallas would probably win this series. This kid Gafford got hops. His unbelievable athleticism. We got that going on. We got Luka. Sore knee, sore ankle, different legs, don't matter. He shows up. He drops what he drops. We see P.J. Washington doing his thing. We see Derrick Jones catching alley-oops doing his thing. But that damn Kyrie Irving is just lurking. One of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen. One of the greatest finishers at the basket in NBA history. This dude, Kyrie Irving, is just going in there, flying in there for rebounds, giving tap outs to Luka Doncic 1 minute, feeding Tim Hardaway Jr. the next, P.J. Washington the next, etc. Kyrie's a showstopper. And we know that ain't his forte. Having 2 points in the first half, having 6 points in the first half, stuff like that. Ladies and gentlemen, that ain't Kyrie Irving. At some point, an explosion is imminent. That's just how I feel about it. I think he's lurking, he's waiting. And the bigger the moment, the more he will shine. And in Dallas for a Game 6 with an opportunity to get to the conference finals, Kyrie and Luka is somebody that I'm going to look past now? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Coming up, I'll talk to Professor Michael Eric Dyson on what appears to be growing support of black voters to Donald Trump. I wasn't lying to y'all. I'm just giving you the facts. Nothing more. Listen to Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, and you'll know what I'm talking about next, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Oh, my Lord. Have you been watching the NBA playoffs? Because you know I have. And yes, they've been fantastic. Make no mistake about it. But do you know what else makes watching them even more exciting, even more scintillating? Prize Picks, of course. That's what the hell I'm talking about. In case you didn't know this. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app where you can select 2 or more of your favorite players and then pick more or less on their projected stats for the game. So with a big event happening each and every single night, Prize Picks is here to help you cash in on all that real-time action. I make my picks every night in less than 60 seconds. Then I sit back, I watch, and I wait for the cash. But Prize Picks doesn't stop at the NBA. Oh, no. You can choose from a myriad of sports, the WNBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, even MMA, and everything in between. And get this, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. You heard me right. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SAS. That's my initials, of course, for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's SAS when you go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code. Pick more, pick less. is really, really that easy. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I wanted to take a little bit of time today to talk a little politics, and it is with my next guest, okay? And the reason we're talking politics today stems from reports or polls that appear to show former President Donald Trump actually gaining even more support amongst black voters. And it seems the polling numbers are not lost on the White House, where President Biden will spend this week looking to reverse an erosion of support amongst black voters. Biden plans to give a speech this Sunday at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, that will aim to increase support among black men, a voting bloc where the president's support has clearly declined. Joining me right now is renowned author, best-selling author, professor, historian, the brilliant, the one and only, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. My brother, what's going on, my man? How you doing? How's everything?
Always great to see you, my friend. You're the king of media, and it's always good to see you in one of your venues and to share this spotlight with you.
Well, listen, I needed your guidance and your expertise and your brilliance on this subject because I need you to help me figure a few things out here. There's several polls that definitely show declining support among black voters going from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. And listen, this is where they are right now. Why do you believe that that's the case? First of all, do you believe it's true? And secondly, why would you believe that's the case?
Well, you know, the math ain't mathing, as they say. There's some manipulation statistically with some of these poll numbers. However, the bottom line is there is, I think, disgruntlement among many African-American people about Joe Biden. And there seems to be a corollary attraction and to Donald Trump. He has an appeal. What is that appeal based on? Maybe, you know, some young people say he's got swag. They think he's the kind of person who will go out here and will say what's on his mind without having it filtered through politically correct language. That's one. Number two, you listen to some of the rappers who say that they're attracted to Donald Trump, one of whom says, look, he gave out checks during COVID and the like, not understanding that those monies were released by an act of Congress, not the president, but nonetheless, they associate that with him. And then they think he's got this kind of swagger, he's got this kind of charisma because he's able to, you know, be the kind of person that many of them ideally and fantasize about being. Tell you what's on their mind, tell you when to leave and when to come, and keep stepping. More substantively, I think some people are distraught with, you know, President Biden over a couple issues, the Israel and, you know, Palestinian situation, the war in Gaza. Some of them are quite upset about what they perceive to be President Biden's total capitulation to Israel and not standing up enough for Palestinians. Although one must quickly hasten to add, what do you think will happen with Donald Trump, who has been completely in favor of every action that Israel has taken versus a Joe Biden who has tried to, you know, apply restraint or at least get Israel to apply restraint when dealing with Palestine right now. And then I think some people, in regards to their conservative values and beliefs, you know, there's a group of African-American people who are not only culturally conservative, some of them are growingly politically conservative, and they find some of the issues that Donald Trump addresses around, say, sexuality, around gender, far more appealing to them than they would perceive liberal cultural values to do. So I think when you put all that stuff together, there is, regardless of the degree of mathematical distance between the polling and the actual voting of African-American people, there is some erosion of support among Democrats, and there certainly is an uptick of support for Donald Trump and the Republicans.
When you allude to mathematical deviation, educate the viewers out there, educate the listeners out there as to why we should take that seriously, because a lot of times so much is reliant upon the polls. We look at the polls leading up to elections, and it gives us an indication. It's not to say it's always right, but it certainly is not always wrong. And in this particular instance, no one would think that Donald Trump, 4 indictments, 91 different counts, civil lawsuits, and hundreds of millions of dollars, wouldn't even be in a position to run for re-election, let alone win it. But clearly that appears to be the case right now. So when you allude to those mathematical differences, Tell me why folks shouldn't dismiss that and say, wait a minute, look at what's happening here. Look at the momentum. We've got two eyes.
Right.
We see the momentum shifting to some degree, particularly after what you just articulated about this current administration. Why shouldn't folks take that with the seriousness they appear to be taking that with now?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Well, even mathematically and statistically, they ain't calling like a million black people, y'all. They're not calling a million people, period, when they do these polls. It might be 200 or 300 people. And then the statistical difference could be an uptick of 6 or 7 people in either direction will give you a significant change in the polling numbers. So if you're talking, and our brother Michael Harriot, who kind of explained this on Twitter, talking about 6 voters made a difference in terms of registering a difference in terms of the uptick for Republicans. Now, I understand that and I appreciate that. That's real. But at the same time, speaking enough to so many other black people and hearing from them, I think it's undeniable that there is great frustration with the Democrats and there is some appeal to Donald Trump. And as you've already indicated, here's a guy with 4 cases, probably got more. He got more cases than Pabst Blue Ribbon, as they used to say when I was a kid. He's a guy who's facing enormous consequence, potentially, for some misjudgments or criminal activities, and yet black people, a certain amounts of black people, certain segments of black people, certain slices of the voterate feels that he is the appealing candidate. They think that Joe Biden ain't on TV enough, he ain't talking enough, he's not representing his viewpoint enough. Even the people who support Joe Biden, like Plies the rapper, right, did an interesting video the other day saying, where are you at? We see Donald Trump every day. He's on TV. Every day he's being talked about because he's got yet another court case or some judge, imposing a fine on him or warning him against speaking. In other words, he's sucking up all of the media oxygen in the room. And the good things that Joe Biden is doing, he's tweeting about or sending in a way that doesn't get out to the broader audience. So not only are we talking about a shift in sensibility and perception among certain African-American voters being frustrated with Joe Biden for a number of reasons, there is also the fact that the messaging of Donald Trump for free, if you will, but also because of the enormous concentration of media attention upon his various flaws is keeping his name in the print. Now, that old saying that used to be, hey, ain't no bad publicity. We know there is bad publicity, but when it comes to presidential sweepstakes and this man is still in the running, that calculates, that converts, I should say, in a way that does have a net positive for him. So we have to ask African-American voters, you got to be a bit more sophisticated about this. I think many of us are. And then some have indicated, look, black people don't come out to rallies. They don't do certain kinds of exhibitionist political if you will, consent or partisanship. What they do is just vote. In some instances, that's true. But at the same time, even among the folk that I travel this country talking to, and you do as well, there is a noticeable uptick in support for Donald Trump that we have to grapple with and take seriously.
Well, listen, it's always good and it's always beautiful to talk to you, my big bro, especially on intellectual items, because obviously you're one of the high-end intellectuals in this nation. There's make no mistake about that. And we both have talked about it, and we know that recently, I got so much heat. I know my team and other people don't want me to bring it up. I don't give a damn. I'm going to be who I am. And one of the things that I've religiously stated, I don't support Donald Trump. He's not getting my vote. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight was that, you're in trouble if you're a Biden supporter. If you're somebody that's planning on voting for Biden, if you're somebody that wants Biden reelected, you cannot just turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to what is transpiring before our very eyes. There are black folks in America who have turned to supporting Donald Trump. That is just a fact. And what I wonder, and I say it it's not just because of that's a reason to be worried about him returning to the White House. It's also the fact that the level of support that Barack Obama garnered not just once but twice in terms of the inordinate amount of people emanating from our community willing to go to the polls. That wasn't necessarily the case with Hillary Rodham Clinton, and I certainly have no reason to believe it's going to be the case with Joe Biden in 2024. I think that there's going to be a lack of participation, meaning voters showing up to the polls to vote for him. You're going to see some that just don't show up. That's a concern I have. Is that concern legitimate in your eyes?
Absolutely. And first of all, let me speak to that. You are a man of tremendous integrity and huge authenticity, and you call it like you see it. And the truth is that there is a troubling phenomenon and trend. There is a problem here, or at least there is a trend that is noticeable that we have to be honest about. We can't stick our heads in the sand and pretend that it's not the case. That's not an endorsement. That's an analysis. I happen to be a Joe Biden supporter, but that doesn't mean I can't see what's going on. That doesn't mean I close my eyes. And you're absolutely right. We have to take this extremely seriously because, as you've so intelligently pointed out, Barack Obama had a kind of inborn and inbred charisma. He had a natural advantage. He had house money that he was playing with in a way that neither Hillary Clinton nor Joe Biden possess. And that is the radical and immediate identification of African masses of Black people with a candidate like Barack Obama. Now, arguably, Joe Biden has done more specifically for African American people in terms of the effect of the policies. The rate of unemployment is significantly lower. The fact that you've got a Black vice president in office and a Black woman on the Supreme Court, not only symbolically, but substantively in terms of what he's done with housing and economic inequality, and also for those people who have received who have been forgiven of their student loans. So when we look across the board, Joe Biden has arguably done even more, and yet the messaging behind that is not equally as powerful. First, because he doesn't have the inbuilt advantage of a Barack Obama, and secondly, because sometimes Democrats are loath to get out there and brag about what they're doing. You got to get out there and brag and tell the people what you're doing. You've got to announce it from your bully pulpit as he crisscrosses this nation on his campaign stops to talk about what's going on and to figure out new media, to figure out social media, to figure out the old school stuff, and make sure that you're involving the Black media in your plans, which has often been a criticism levied by people within the media. So when we put all that stuff together, it is necessary at this point to warn folk, not after it's over. Well, I tell you, I did see this, but I didn't say anything. Say it now. This is the time for us to make acute analysis and serious scrutiny about what's happening. So with the purpose of, arming Black people with knowledge that will allow them to vote the right way.
Before I move on to my next question, I want you to take a look at this post from Fox News analyst Josh Kraushaar. That's his name. I want you to take a look at this because I want you to see it, and I want to put it up on the screen here. Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden are essentially tied among 18 to 29-year-olds and Hispanic voters, even though each group gave Mr. Biden more than 60% of their vote in 2020. Mr. Trump also wins more than 20% of Black voters, a tally that would be the highest level of Black support for any Republican presidential candidate since the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. One of the things that I'm going to make it a priority to do on this show at least a couple of times a month, if not more, as the election approaches, Dr. Dyson, is I want to focus on the Black vote. I want to focus on the Black community. What we used to do compared to what we've done, what we're doing, what we intend to do. And I want you to highlight, being a historian that you are, the obvious answer to why the Democrats have had a stranglehold on the Black vote since 1964 is obviously because of civil rights legislation that was written into law in 1964 by President Lyndon B. Johnson, even though people from both parties brought it to his desk. But ever since that time, according to reports about Lyndon B. Johnson, we do this and we'll have the Negroes voting for us for the next 200 years. And at a time, it certainly appeared to be that way. And because of that, people have held on to it and used it as a form of cynicism to say, the Democratic Party has taken the black vote for granted. So as a result, we ain't going for the okie doke anymore. We're going to change this up. That's what some of the black folks, who clearly are Trump supporters, are now articulating. I want to know, in your estimation, is there truth to that level of thinking, that level of verbiage being thrown out there by those Trump supporters, black and otherwise, and how valid it is in your mind of an argument for them to make against the Democratic Party?
Yeah, look, if you're suffering in a certain way, and African-American people across the board are, as the brothers in the streets say, irregardless of your party, whether you're Democrat or Republican, there's no question about that. However, if you say under the Democrats you are frustrated and flustered because certain issues are not being taken seriously, or you don't think you're being heard, or you think you're being taken for granted, you know, it's a kind of Bobby Womack approach to this whole thing. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight, girl. Okay. So the thing is that if you think you're frustrated and flustered under the Democrats, the reason the Republicans have not garnered more of the African-American vote, and I'll tell you, it's easy. It would be easy for them to do so because there is agreement outside of what I believe. I happen to be a progressive, liberal thinker within African-American culture. The masses of black people would disagree with me on certain issues in terms of LGBTQA, QI, transgender and the like, and so on. I understand that. I don't lie to myself about that. However, what I say is the masses of black people who happen to be conservative would find it more easy to vote Republican if the Republicans weren't so repugnant and repulsive in some of their explicit racist manipulations or their implicitly racist policies or outlooks. So in other words, if they weren't so focused on retaliating against the fragile gains of African-American people and could find a way to make concessions in their own ideological tent, a lot more black people would be gathered under there. Just because you're hurting in your left pinky doesn't mean that I'm going to go to somebody who's going to hurt the other three fingers. You want to hurt less, not more. And under Republican ideology and practices, look at the gerrymandering going on in state legislatures. Look at the drawing of voting maps that are dissipating the concentrated effect of black voting districts. The Supreme Court just ruled a couple of days ago saying, I think it was in Louisiana or somewhere, that the attempt of the state legislatures and the courts to gerrymander against African-American people and to draw maps that would disfavor them is constitutionally invalid. So this is the effect of the Republicans. They want to gain every advantage possible, legally or not, constitutionally or not. And I think that all of this discourse among Republicans about steal the vote and look at what happened, the truth is that there's very little of stealing the vote among Democrats. There's a little voting irregularity. What we can point to is the sheer manipulation of ideologues within the right wing or the Republican Party. Having said that, I think there is frustration among African-American people. We ain't gonna be on no plantation. Well, what plantation you think you're leaving and going to? If you're on a Democratic plantation, if that's what you conceive it to be, which I don't, what plantation will you now go to? You think you'll be independent? You think voting for Donald Trump or the right wing is something that will serve your interests? There is no evidence of this. So while there may be frustration, look, I would like the Lakers to be in the finals every year because I'm a Lakers fan since I was a kid. But they ain't in the finals. It's going to be maybe Minnesota, and it's going to be maybe the Boston Celtics. Who knows? The point is, your team that you desire to be there ain't there. So the choices you have are who's there, not this fantasy land. I wish it was this case. And I think we have to suggest to African-American people, yes, we've got to sometimes bite the bullet. Yes, we've got to sometimes look the bully in the face and say this is true and not true. But we don't gain when we capitulate to interests that have evidently undermined our community and not shown much interest otherwise. Yes, it's hard perhaps for some people to vote Democratic and to be in that group, but it is far more difficult and far more paralyzing to make the choice to swing in the other direction.
Well, one of the things that I think, and I've articulated that on this show as well, that, people have had an attitude with me about, I said, I think you applaud the Democratic Party. The greatest thing that the Democratic Party, or one of the greatest things that the Democratic Party has done for the African-American community in this nation is that they were the ones who gave us access to capital. Because when you talk about generational wealth, when you talk about, economic empowerment and what have you, they were the ones that played a significant role in facilitating that. And I don't hear the Democrats spewing about that enough. That's number one. That's one of the things that I said. And the other thing that I pointed out, Dr. Dyson, is this. And I took a lot of heat for this. But again, I don't give a damn. I stand on it. When I think about Trump and the lawfare that has been engaged against him, what I'm saying is I'm not trying to act as if the man is guilty or innocent of anything. The courts will determine that, and we'll go with it from there. What I'm saying is it's not stopping him from being away from the camera. It's not stopping him from playing the role of victim. It's not stopping him from generating campaign dollars. And on top of it all, it hasn't stopped him from being the GOP nominee and the man in line to return to the presidency unless Biden is able to beat him. My point is, I don't think that they've taken that into enough consideration, and you're looking for the courts to come to the rescue instead of you finding a way to beat him yourself. I don't know how much clearer I can be in stating that. Help me out here. Help me out with that message.
You're absolutely right. And then I was thinking when you were talking, playing a little acronym game here, he is a G to many of these people, right? Not the GOP, just the G, just in terms of street discourse. And OP, you're down with OP, right? So there is some grudging recognition among certain African-American people like, damn, I don't care what you say about Donald Trump. I don't dig him. I ain't trying to vote for him. But dog, you got to admit, he just don't care. He going to say what he believes. He going to tell you how he thinks it ought to be, and he's going to move forward. There is something to many people that's refreshing about the departure from a political discourse that is so riddled with duplicity, with people not telling the truth, with people not coming out and saying what they believe. Now, so let's be honest about that. Having said that, you're absolutely right too that people, at the end of the day, regardless of the charges he's confronting, regardless of the cases he's got, he is out there every day on Truth Social and whatever other platform he has, in the press, when the judges are not trying to censor him correctly in terms of putting a gag order on him, when he keeps on talking and offending. Now, it's reprehensible in terms of the political substance and the moral substance of what he's doing, but at the same time, he gains eyeballs and earlobes. People hear what he's talking about, and they are forced to assess the veracity or not, the legitimacy or not, the authenticity or not. And so at the end of the day, that is a kind of bullheaded determination to be heard at all costs. That is attractive to certain voters who say, I'm tired of the BS I get coming out of these politicians' mouths. They're lying left and right and left. But here's a guy who's going to tell it like it is. I happen to believe that is destructive for the country. I happen to believe that he has shredded any ounce of consideration for the other side and any ounce of political convention that suggests we have decorum and civility in a way. However, in these trench battles, it is very vicious out here, and Donald Trump is throwing mud in the face, sand in the face, using every advantage he has, name calling and the like. And we'll see what happens when this upcoming debate in June, where Donald Trump faces off squarely against President Biden, and see what the consequences will be. But we cannot underestimate the various forces of appeal out here that militate against the interests of African-American people that they may be voting for. And we can't pretend that just because we think it's silly or crazy or dumb or unintelligent or counterproductive or destructive to our interests that it's not happening. We have to open our eyes and then try to strategize as a result of that.
When we talk about polls, you have some people out there who talk about it, especially somebody like my buddy Roland Martin, who would say, you know what, there are black polls, there are white polls, and there are black polls. Do you draw a distinction with that. Do you agree with him on that these polls, because you alluded to its potential inaccuracies, and they haven't talked to every black person, and there indeed is a difference between white polls and black polls that actually exist out there, where there's palpable evidence to show that dichotomy that exists. Do you agree with Roland Martin on that?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with nearly everything Roland Martin says. But I agree
so
with Stephen A. Smith. With Stephen A. Smith. I mean, you know, smart people, period. But smart black people, I take them seriously. So you and he, certainly I take seriously. But yes, I mean, and look, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. used to joke about this. It was common in the black community. You know, when the census taker came, the reason we didn't get an accurate count of black people, Dr. King said, because they thought it was the bill collector. So because they thought it was the bill collector, they ain't answered the door, and we don't get our census counted. That's still a problem in many instances. But the point is, even if half the poll is right, we in trouble. Even if you cut down 50% of it, we in trouble. And we should take it as a warning sign, a volley, if you will, across the bow, politically speaking, that we got to do something. We got to get on our P's and Q's. I know Roland, I know you, and I know the most intelligent observers of our community have to, you know, are often, you know, sounding the alarm. I don't care what them polls are saying. Even if we say half of it is right, half of it is wrong, or it's off by so many percentage points, and it therefore doesn't truly represent. Ain't no problem, ain't no harm in overdoing it. At halftime, was it last night, Anthony Edwards was saying to his teammates, do not let your foot off the gas. So they end up winning by what, 45 points. So the point is we cannot let our foot off the gas. We have to assume we have a formidable opponent, because we do. We have to assume that there is a bleeding off, a leakage of support formerly accumulated within African-American culture, and there is. And so therefore, despite the fact that those polls, I think, are off, and that there's a differential accorded to any objective person dealing with evidence and empirical verification of a fact, that there's a difference between white polls and black polls, that's true. But we got to act like we are in trouble and the house is on fire, and what is we gonna do? That's where we are, and we have to be motivated to address that issue.
How disappointed, I'm going to use the word disappointment, if not flat out fearful, even though I would almost never associate that last word with you. How fearful are you about the Democratic Party not having a bullpen, not having anybody lined up, knowing this man has been in this picture, on this scene, this political scene, for at least 8 years and counting, and we find ourselves relying on a soon-to-be 82-year-old incumbent to give us 4 more years? What does that say to you about the party that you pride yourself in being a part of in this day and age?
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, I'm praying for his health. That's number one. As a Baptist preacher, Jesus, please help me out. So that's number one. But number two, more seriously, you're right. We do have to develop a bench. We have to generate. And here's the thing. Here's what I know about history, though, is that there's always a ram in the bush somewhere, that there's always somebody ready to step up that we don't even know their name. We didn't know Anthony Edwards was going to be the beast he was, drawing these comparisons to Michael Jordan 2 years ago. Heck, not even a year ago. We saw him coming. We knew he was great, but we didn't know. Is there a corollary in the political world? Maybe not, but then maybe so. There are very articulate, insightful, conscientious political figures. Some would say a Hakeem Jeffrey. Some would say a Jasmine Crockett. Some would say, younger people, out of Congress, or Jamal Bowman and the like, who are seriously committed to making a difference. There are white and black and Latino politicians who are quite comfortable in trying to forge connections with people across the aisle, but then keeping their eyes on the prize. So that there are people who will certainly emerge, because necessity is the mother of invention. However, it is true that we must be deeply and profoundly committed and invested in the process of developing a visibly ready bench of figures to step up into not only the spotlight, more importantly, onto the stage to do the work that is necessary to encourage political progress for African Americans and Latinos and poor white folk and Asian brothers and sisters and so on, who are able to articulate the ideals of the American democracy in ways that are appealing and refreshing, willing to fight for the, quote, the small guy and woman, willing to stand up for those who are poor and who are middle class and do so. And there are many politicians who are able to do that. So we can't give into cynicism. There was a quote from a Black preacher and professor who was the mentor of Martin Luther King Jr., Howard Thurman. And Howard Thurman said, never reduce your dreams to the event you are confronting right now. This event will not exhaust the infinite possibilities of your life or your political destiny. So even though it looks dreary now, we can't reduce our dreams to the dreariness. We've got to elevate ourselves. And remember this, if you think it's bad now, what was it like when Martin Luther King Jr. was alive, or Ralph Abernathy, or Ella Baker, or Joanne Robinson, or Rosa Parks? These people had less and did more. So what we can't forget is that we possessed within us the ability and the resource to pull a rabbit out of the hat, to insist that there will be a ram in the bush, and to make certain, not by just praying and wishing and hoping, but by working as hard as we can help shape the very destiny about which we have fear or about which we have concern. We are the answers we are looking for, and we've got to do the work necessary to change the future.
My very last question to you, Dr. Dyson, the wonderful Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, right here with yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, on the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube. As we sit here and we talk about race and we talk about the black vote, particularly as this presidential election continues to unfold, with Donald Trump and President Biden both agreeing to a debate at least this June, next month, and of course in September, although Trump said he wants it June, July, August, and September, but that's a different subject for another day. But as we sit here and talk about race, my last question to you would be race relations of a different ilk, and that is alluding to a beautiful article that you wrote in the Philadelphia Citizen that I have right in front of me. If you're looking for it, go to the philadelphiacitizen.org to find this article entitled "Why Kendrick versus Drake," as in Kendrick Lamar versus the one and only Drake, is a proxy war. The rap battle everyone is talking about is really about race, identity, Black/Jewish relations in this American moment. A Citizen exclusive from a best-selling author and elite public intellectual. That man would be the one I'm talking to right now. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, what incited you to write this article that was published May 15th, and you can catch it now, and what message did you want to get out there and disseminate to the masses?
See, I'm glad I'm talking to the great Stephen A. Smith, because in other fora, you know, I've had to hold my powder and be more balanced and so on. I'm pissed that Drake gets dismissed off the scene when he's been Drake for 15 years. And you act like you didn't know that. Now he's not really black. Oh, he was black when he's recorded more songs with Jay-Z than most of these rappers. Last time I checked, Jay-Z is real. He ain't fake. Challenging his racial identity, saying he's a culture vulture when he's when he's a black man. He's from Canada. He ain't real. Idris Elba is from the UK. People still love him on The Wire. So why is it that being outside of our geography, outside of our nationality, raises suspicions about Drake? Now you can debate the war between Kendrick and Drake in terms of, you know, the quintuple entendres that Kendrick Lamar unleashes. Kendrick Lamar is a brilliant rapper and a formidable foe, but so is Drake. And what he's done to expand the horizon of hip hop is underestimated, even artistically, I'm saying. People, well, he goes into one style and he does that, and he goes over to UK drill and he does that, he goes over to bounce music, he does that, he goes to the Caribbean, he does this. Why are you looking at a positive as a negative? Cinco de Mayo just passed. They had a special Cinco de Mayo a celebration for Jay-Z in Cinco de Mayo, because Jay-Z has been attracted to Latino culture, speaking Spanish all through his music, and they had an entire program celebrating Jay-Z. Was Jay-Z a culture?
And don't forget OG Juan.
I mean,
don't forget OG Juan now, his brother, his right hand now. I mean,
come on, bro.
Juan Perez, I mean, please, come on now. We all know Juan.
And Desiree Perez. his wife.
That's right.
That is OJ1, and
That's-
the woman who runs
OG.
his, Rock Nation. So the point is that is Jay-Z a culture vulture? No, we have to stop this narrow, punishing, pernicious, limited viewpoint about blackness. Yes, have a debate about who's the greatest. Have a debate about rhetorical skills. But let me tell you what, as Lupe Fiasco, no slouch as a rhetorician, and one of the greatest lyricists ever, said that he would put Drake slightly above Kendrick Lamar. That's a minority position, but it's a very powerful one. He's saying that Drake got bars. So we miss Drake because of this other madness, the distorting impact of the metrics that we evoke, his being Jewish and white and not so-called black. So was Barack Obama a mixed race person. And my dear brother, I heard, that he's a friend of both of ours. When we go into Breakfast Club all the time, Charlemagne the God called him, he said, this half Negro. And I want to say, Charlemagne, there's a lot of half Negroes out here who have done tremendous work for African-American culture, so that the name calling, the kind of ad hominem remarks, as opposed to a full-on embrace of the rhetorical diversity and splendor that is Drake. To me, that would be a fairer fight. Then we could make an estimation of what's going on. And then that piece, of course, I also talk about this being a proxy war for other issues that are out there, and we can talk about those another time, but dealing with the war in Gaza, dealing with DEI, dealing with Black excellence, dealing with rhetorical power, dealing with education, dealing with the colorism we see in our own communities, because there's no question that light, bright, almost white was a thing, is a thing, and we have to pay attention to that. At the same time, we know that Clarence Thomas is a dark-skinned Black man. We know that Candace Owens is a brown-skinned Black woman, and they are legitimately Black. I don't contest their Blackness. It's the moral content of their identities and their public policies that I would have a difference with. So I'm arguing, in this sense, for us to understand the power and the prolific character of a genius like Aubrey Drake Graham.
We'll get more into that subject in the future because we got to go right now. You know what that is.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a fallback position. Anytime Black folks got a problem with other Black folks, somebody sold out in somebody's eyes. That's the ultimate argument. And I think that Kendrick Lamar heard himself with that one point that you just articulated so brilliantly. I got to get on out of here, but I appreciate your time, your brilliance, your excellence, your insight, your historical facts that you threw out there as well. Appreciate you, love you, and thank you for taking so much time out of your busy schedule. And by the way, I know that we're going to catch you soon because you're doing an interview with my man Bill Maher for Club Random. I know that's going to be off the chain as well with his crazy self. Love you, bro. I appreciate you, Dr.
Love
Dyson.
you too,
thank
my
you
brother.
So much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Take it easy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's show. I want to thank again one and only Dr. Michael Eric Dyson for coming on the show, blessing us with his presence, his knowledge, and his historical perspectives. No question it is needed in this day and age. I just felt compelled to tackle that subject because, once again, I'm reiterating a point that I was making all along. I'm not one of them, but there are Black folks out there that are veering away and are looking to support not Joe Biden, but Donald Trump. It cannot be ignored. It should not be ignored. Networks are not ignoring it. The people are not ignoring it. I'll be damned if I'm going to. I'm not going to do that. But I appreciate Dr. Michael Eric Dyson's voice. I can't wait to get my man Roland Martin back on here. And by the way, conservatives, Black conservatives of a different opinion, whose voice resonates, who have people who want to listen to and hear what they have to say, you're welcomed on the show too. I'm not leaving anybody out. I take them all, liberals and conservatives, Black, whites, Latinos, it doesn't matter to me. As long as the conversation is respectful, substantive, and fair, and edifying. Those are my requirements. I hope you can respect that. Got to get on out of here for the day. Got a Knicks Pacers Game 6 Eastern Conference semifinal series to cover. So I got to get on out of here. I hope y'all all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I will see you on Monday. Until then, peace and love, everybody. I'm out.